Hello, you are welcome. In this particular episode, you're going to look at applying the concept we have studied already in methods for a particular case. Okay, so if you can see over here under programming challenges, we will want to start with programming challenge number one, which is headed at show method. Okay, so we're going to go through this case together, and then like I explained to you earlier on, I have my personal approach in tackling these challenges. First, identifying the output, identifying the input, and then we'll look at what processes will lead us to this particular output that we earlier on identified. So quickly I'm going to read the question together with you, and then right afterwards we go through the three processes in having to accomplish the task. Okay, so I read. Write a method named Shoka. The method should accept two arguments, a reference to a string object and an integer. The integer argument is a character positioned within the string, with the first character being at position 0. When the method executes, it should display the character at that character position. Here is an example of a call to the method. So we have the name of the method here, show character, and then you pass on the argument, New York, and then you pass on the value 2. So 2 is the position that we want to identify in here. All right. So in this call, the method will display the character W because it is in the position 2. Demonstrate the method in the complete program. All right. So back again at this side, we have been given the fact that the showcam method should look this way, and then it should display the character W because it is in the position what 2. All right. So the why did we get W if the position is 2? So this is like the concept on arrays. Okay, in arrays, the cell locations are numbered from 0.
It's 9 o'clock.
So N will occupy the location 0, E will occupy the location 1, W will occupy the location 2. The space here will be location what 3, Y will be 4, through till we get to the very last one, which is what, which is K. Okay, so that is how come the with the given position 2, W is what is printed on the screen. Okay, so let's go back again into this case study, and we want to identify what the inputs are. We want to identify the output. Sorry, the output first. What is the expected output? What are the input or the input or the input of the input or inputs? If it is just one input, let me show that. And then we will look at the processes we need to go through, process or processes that we will need to go through to have achieved that. Okay, so the number one on this first step is identify what the output is. Okay, so the question reads as a method show blah, blah, blah. The method should accept 2. All right, so this is talking about input. The integer argument is a character position within blah 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 first character being 0. With the method execute, it should display the character at that character position. Okay, so it is supposed to display a character in a given string based on its position. Okay, so like in the example, given New York and then the position 2, it identifies that the character that needs to be displayed is what? Is W. All right, so with this foreknowledge, we have a very good clue from the second statement that the method should accept how many arguments? 2. Accepting those arguments with the word accept is giving you a clue that we are supposed to receive what? An input. Okay, so quickly quickly we want to look at what those inputs are supposed to be. So we have been told one is supposed to be a string object and the other is an integer. Okay, so so we know one is supposed to be the given string, and then the other input is supposed to be the position. Okay, the position of the character within of the string. Okay, so when you have the given string and then a position, what do you do? What do you do to be able to identify the character? This is where you apply the Java concept. Okay, so when you have the given string at using the function character at the position, this should help us find the exact letter or character within of the string that has been given you. So for example, if the position underscore character, or the position, if it is zero, then we are looking at the fact that if an input is given, the first location occupied by that particular character in the string is what we want to print out. Okay, so like I explained earlier on, if we use this, then by this example, it will print out what? N. If we change it from 0 to 1, then we are looking at printing out what? E. If it is no more 1 but 2, then we print out what? W. If we use 3, it will print blank because 3 is an empty space. If you enter 4, it will print what? Y. Likewise till we've gotten to the latter. Okay, so the input, the output we are supposed to display is the character based on the position given as an input to that particular string. Okay, so that will tell what particular index in the string do we want to print out, and that index will also point to a location. All right, so now what are the inputs? We will need to enter a particular given string. It could be any string at all, any set of characters, and then based on the position that it is given, we would want to print that process. All right, and then now we're going to use the character at function to point to that index. With this given background, quickly we would go into the development side. Let me close this. This is an advert I was working on. So I would nope. I want to put this here. All right, so we are there. I wanted to put this here so then it will serve as a guide for us. Okay. All right, so quickly what we're going to do now is to create a project. If you are new to this particular channel and this is the first time you want to learn on how to create projects, you can look at the very introductory lesson. I have given very detailed how to create projects in Java. Okay, so now we want to give this project a name. Let's say you want to call this programming challenge. Then we click on finish. Okay, so this is the name of the project we just created. It must have a class, so we select Java class. We want to call this what are we working on? Let's say find character. All right, so the class is created for us. We would need to create the method, the main method that will control the execution of the entire program. So we write this public static void main. We pass on the string argument args open and a close parenthesis. Okay, so now the main method is literally supposed to control the execution of the program. So this is not the method of our focus. We want to create our own method because we have been asked in the question to create a method as such called show, a method that will have these two arguments. All right, so let me just copy and then paste that here as the method call. Now we are now going to define the method show character. I'll copy this, or to make it easy for you to be able to easily follow, we will need to define this method with define a method called show character. Okay, so we're going to make it public, and then it's also going to be a static method. Void also, because we don't expect that it should return any value upon its call. Right, and then look over here, focus very well here. What data type is this? It is put in double quotes, so that tells us clearly that the first is supposed to be what? A string. Right, string input. We want to call this literally input, and then the other is the position. Okay, so in the question we have been told that the method should accept, we should write a method. The method's name is supposed to be this show character, like we have done. The method should accept two arguments, right? So the first argument is a reference to a string object. So that is what we have done here. So the object name is going to be input. Okay, and then we have been told also following that the next argument is supposed to be an integer, and then the integer is the position. Okay, so we have created these two arguments. One is a string, one is an integer. Okay, so POS will represent the position that we want to quickly identify from the string. Okay, so now what processes did we state? So we take, for example, the string New York is going to be passed on to the variable input. The value 2 will be passed on to the variable what? POS, which represents the position. So now when you are given the string and you are given the position, how do you find that particular position it occupies within that string? That is where we mentioned earlier on that we are going to use what? The character at. Okay, so we define a character variable. Let's call this let's say L for letter, or let's simply use letter. And then what we will do is we want to mention that with this given string input, okay, at dot character at the given position. So it should pick the value passed on to POS, which is the position, and then look inside of the string input and then identify its location. So with this example, 2 is going to pass on to POS. So POS over here contains what? 2, right? For this example purpose. So it will look at, if you pass on New York, which will mean input contains what? New York. Okay, New York. So it will look at the index location 0, this is 1, and this is what? 2. Okay, so it will pick it will pick W and then pass W on to the character variable letter. Okay, so what we want to do now is to print out the content of the variable letter. So we use system.out.print new line, letter. All right, so let's save this code. Let's save this code and then let's run it. All the time, if you do not save your code, when you want to run your code, it will tell you the main method to the class not found. Okay, to prevent that, save your code all the time. All right, so we have the output here as W. I hope it works perfectly well for you also. Okay, so if you want to do this at runtime, then you will want to ask the user to enter the values. Okay, so let's do this in the graphical user interface. So we import java x.swing.asterisk, and then in that we would want to use the GOption pane. Okay, so we create a string. We want to call this, let's say SS, and then we use the GOption pane dot show. What you want to receive is an input. So input dialog, enter a string. All right, so now because the input that is received is a string, we would not need to do any conversion. It is already in a string, and we need a string input. Okay, so we would take the input directly from here, and then we pass it on as SS. Okay, what we need to ask the user to input once again is the integer value, the position it will need to identify from the given string. All right, so we're going to use same SS to take the input, and then we pass on, we call GOption pane dot show input dialog, enter what? The character position. Because we want this in an integer format, we declare a variable int, and then we call it p for position. So now we would want to convert the SS into an integer. So what do? We use the wrapper class integer.pass int, and then we pass on what? SS. Okay, so over here, instead of 2, we'll pass on what? We pass on p, because p now contains what? Contains the converted value of string to an integer. Now, to move away from any kind of possible confusion on what we are passing on, let's change this variable name SS to, let's say, py, and then we make this also a string, right? So um, the position value that will be entered, which will be captured in the form of a string, now will be kept in the variable py. Okay, so we will want to convert py and not ss. Okay, so a string variable for to contain the string that will be entered, and we have created another string variable for the integer value that will be entered, but it will be captured as an captured as a string. So we will now need to convert it on line number 17. So we have py, which is the position, but captured as a string and converted into an integer, and then now stored in the variable what p. Okay, all right. So now when the method showCar is called, it passes on the string input, okay, which contains the string itself, and then p, which contains the numerical integer that which is the position that it should identify in ss. So on line number 18, we call the method and then we pass on the two arguments exactly as specified in the question. So on from line number 18, the control shifts quickly to the method called was showCar. So line number 18 is what we call the function call or method call. Let me write that. Method call. We have called the method. So when the method is called, the method must respond. Okay. So when the method is called, we have the variable ss and then we have the variable p. Ss contains the string, p contains the position. So ss is going to pass on to the string variable what input, and then p we pass on to this the integer variable pos. Okay, so what do we have here within this open and close parentheses? They are the argument. Okay, they are parameters. They are parameters here which are expecting to receive values from these two arguments. Okay, right. So ss will go to the first, p will go to pos. So exactly as they are arranged here, the same way the values should be passed on to them. So the first argument will go to the first parameter. The second argument will go to the second parameter. If there are more other parameters and more other arguments, they will follow that same word sequence. Okay, I hope this is helpful. So let's use the GOption pane to also print out GOption pane.show message dialog. I just print out lecture. Okay, so we take off this. Why do we have this bulb here? No suitable one. Method found for show method. All right. So we needed to put the null construct here. All right. So let's save and then run this. Voila. So let's enter what? Like in the example given, new and then York. Oops. Okay. Position. Let's use same 2. It prints W. Let's try another thing. Let's run it again. Try New York. Okay, and then we enter, let's say 5. We printed O. Is that correct? Yes. I'm glad you were here to learn together with me. If there are any portions in this particular lesson that you cannot understand, leave your questions in the comments panel below. If you're also new to this channel, I will urge you to subscribe if you like the lesson. Thank you.